I just do not understand why women do this when they show virtually no empathy for your struggles as a man. Edit. I do not think all women are like this, but I believe more women are becoming like this with the advent of social media and online dating. Story 1. Empathetic means you understand other people's emotions. How you use that knowledge means you can be a bad person. Story 2. Empathy is a skill, not a personality trait. People who have empathy are not necessarily good people. They just understand others' feelings well. Some people can use empathy to manipulate others. If I understand how you feel, then I also know how to take advantage of it. Not having empathy just means you come off as insensitive and emotionally unintelligent. Emotional intelligence does not equal morality. Women are generally more empathetic. This does not mean they are morally better, since morality does not have a gender bias. Morals and empathy are two different things. It is possible to have one without the other. Story 3. It is not true that they almost always use your vulnerability against you like toxic women do. However, nobody goes online to talk about every time they had a vulnerable moment and it was not used against them later, or about the times their wife emotionally supported every little thing. The internet is full of extremes and outrage. Story 4. That is completely untrue. It is natural to commiserate when someone is going through something. Even if we sat down as friends and you said something like, "Have you ever had a bad experience with women using your past against you?" Completely monotone with no emotion, I am going to assume you were hurt by someone. Story 5. Almost always use your vulnerability against you. That hasn't been my experience, but I am sorry if it has been yours. My closest friends are the only people I am truly vulnerable with, and it is a healthy mix of men and women. Honestly, we are all fairly empathetic people in my group. For people I do not know well, such as when hanging out at a training or similar events, I have generally had deeper conversations with a bit more vulnerability with women. Story 6. Women are considered more empathetic because, by and large, they exhibit greater empathy. This is due to multiple factors, such as how they are raised from childhood to be careful givers and nurturers, as well as the media they consume. Reality television offers significant insight into how someone thinks about something. This effect is even stronger in books, which women typically read more than men, because readers get inside the minds of characters and challenge their own ways of thinking. Whether individuals use this empathy to discover and exploit vulnerabilities depends on the person, and this behavior is not typical. Those who do are simply unkind. Story 7. Almost always is kind of harsh. We all seem to have a story like that, but women pretty universally have negative experiences with men as well. If we are going to be upset when others generalize about us, it is hypocritical to do the same. Story 8. This sounds like outdated gender role thinking. Empathy is not about gender. It is about the person. Some women can be incredibly empathetic, just like some men can be. Some people, regardless of gender, will weaponize vulnerability. That is not a woman thing. That is a toxic person thing. Story 9. Why do men with very little experience with women seem to be the ones who always make massive negative generalizations about them? I have had only one woman do this kind of. Story 10. Women are more empathetic, showing an ability to understand and share the feelings of another. They are not more compassionate, which means feeling or showing sympathy and concern for others. They can understand feelings, share feelings, and can be equally heartless, using their empathetic understanding to harm you in ways another man never could. What they lack is compassion or concern for your struggles as a man. It all depends on the individual and their personal moral compass. Many women are unkind and heartless, but not all of them. It is unfair to call every woman heartless, especially those who are trying their best and making efforts to be kind to the men in their lives. Ideally, we should judge people as individuals, not as a group. Story 11. This comes across as if you have been hurt in the past. If this is a vent, I have been there, and parts of me are still hurting. It is painful when you are vulnerable with someone and they use that against you. I am sorry you are hurting. The right person will appreciate your vulnerability, I promise. Some advice and encouragement if you want. Moving forward, it is not helpful to put women in that category because the good ones get mixed up too. What has helped me is putting people into mature and immature categories. In your case, immature women with low emotional intelligence will use your vulnerability against you. What also helped was digging into psychology and understanding human behavior, which lessens the blow a bit. With this pain you have, I do not want you to end up like the bitter men we see on podcasts or elsewhere. You can rise above that. Do not let bad examples ruin the entire group. Rooting for you. Story 12. I've had more men insult me and my masculinity when I opened up to them than women have used it against me. Story 13. I know I am not a man, but I just want to tell you all that I am sorry you have been hurt by women who carry no compassion. Not all women are like that, and I truly hope you find a woman who is both empathetic and compassionate. Story 14. I have had many relationships with women in my life. Not a single one has used my past against me, even in my worst breakups. Your worst is not everyone's normal. Story 15. Empathetic typically means being more emotional in this context. They are referring to emotional empathy as opposed to cognitive empathy. Cognitive empathy involves understanding why someone feels a certain way, which is generally more important for communication, sensitivity, and treating people justly. Story 16. I've never had a woman use my vulnerability against me, though I prefer not to show vulnerability most of the time. In my experience, women tend to be more empathetic, almost to a fault. Maybe other men feel similar levels of empathy and just do not show it as much. I have no data beyond my own subjective observations, but it is most often the women in my life who express empathy for others. I tend to be very selective with my empathy, so I would not be surprised if most people, in general, experience more than I do. Story 17. They are not supposed to be empathetic toward men. They are empathetic toward children and people who cannot help themselves. Unfortunately, they have started treating most people like children because they have no children and nowhere for their empathy to go. Trust me, you do not want women thinking of you as a child. Story 18. Because women are better at manipulating you and convincing society they are more empathetic, when mostly they are not. Women, for the most part, will keep dating their partner while looking for other men and not really communicate issues in the relationship. When they find someone better, they end the relationship and start dating that person, leaving the men, for the most part, to pick up the pieces. There is currently preliminary research suggesting that men are actually more romantic and sentimental than women. Men tend to fall in love quicker and experience love at a higher rate than women do, but more research is needed. I may be downvoted for this comment, but who cares? Story 19. I think it is more that women are more in tune and open with emotions because we are never told it is a bad thing, but this is also a huge generalization. Story 20. It is the same idea as the victors controlling the narrative of history. People who talk about things have more influence than those who do not. Men can be just as empathetic, but the typical pattern is to show it in different ways or not show it at all. Story 21. I can't speak about the using it against you part, not because I haven't repeatedly experienced it, but because I have only had deep emotional connections with women and not men. So, no man has been in a position to really hurt me like many women have. For all I know, men might also not hesitate to use things I've shared with them in confidence to hurt me when they are angry, though I have my doubts. About why women are considered more empathetic. I think there are two reasons. One, women are the default moral point of view societally. Everything is first observed through the lens of how it affects them. Two, women emote more, which makes it easier for observers to know what they are feeling. In my experience, though, when digging deeper, men in general are better at truly looking at things from someone else's perspective and considering what it would be like to be in their shoes, not just feeling bad for them. This is supposed to be the actual meaning of empathy, right? Story 22. In my honest opinion, it is just a sexist throwback to past psychology where women were called the great communicators or more emotional, such as in histrionic disorder and many other cases. Story 23. It's not women in general. It's who you trust the most. That's most likely your girlfriend. That's why you feel this extreme pain. Usually, you don't have much expectation of friends or a random stranger. Do you think you would ever make that many threads about a broken friendship? Being vulnerable is part of what it means to be in a relationship. Did you enjoy it? Does it hurt now? What you feel shows that you are living with awareness. The beauty of life, but also how fragile it is. This is a good thing. However, you seem to hold yourself back. Check your profile. I understand that you need to process it, but you are acting like an addict. You can look into your past, just don't stare. Why add pain to it by yourself? What is holding you back? What are you scared of? You know how to solve this. This person should not have that much control over you. You tried your best to make it work. Do you think she took any accountability? No? Maybe it's your turn to take accountability for yourself. Amor Fati. Story 24. I feel you, brother. I'm obviously not privy to the details of your situation, but something that stands out to me is the phrase, no empathy for your struggles as a man. I understand that feeling, and I find it difficult within the context of a relationship. However, in a men's group, it's a different story. I recommend you check out the Mankind Project. It's a good place to start. Cheers. Story 25. As a woman, I wish I had an answer for you. I do not know why so many women think it is acceptable to deliver the deepest of cuts to men they deem deserving. It is especially unacceptable to do this to the father of their children, regardless of the circumstances. Story 26. Women work in a social system similar to a totem pole. They exert control by giving or taking away status. Men are more group-oriented or tribal. They do the same as an agreed-upon action of the group. They strengthen or reject. Story 27. It takes empathy to understand what will hurt you the most. If I say I gave up a child for adoption and she uses that against me, she understood how badly that hurt me. That's why she is using it against me. It was not a random insult. It means she understood my pain. Your post confirms that women tend to be more empathetic than men, assuming it is true. I think that is correct, but not by a huge margin. Polling data shows women tend to take more empathetic positions on electoral topics. That does not mean empathy was the reason, but implies women may generally be more empathetic than men. Story 28. Because women cannot control their emotions, they lack discipline. In moments of anger, when they want to use something against you, they do not have the ability to control their emotions and reason with themselves. However, if they could, then we would not have these difficult and toxic individuals to whom I am foolishly attracted. Story 29. How do you know she was using your past against you? How do you know she is not trying to understand and make connections in a young adult way? Story 30. It's a generalization. Women are generally better at empathizing with others and are more empathetic than men. They are also more emotional, which allows them to engage more deeply with the emotions of others. However, traditional traits associated with gender, such as higher empathy in women, are being challenged by rapidly evolving and more fluid gender norms in society. Regarding the concept of weaponized empathy or vulnerability, this idea seems to stem from aspects of modern feminism and misandry. Some women are taught through certain narratives to view men as evil, weak, or inferior beings who exist only to be taken advantage of, disrespected, used, and discarded at the first sign of inconvenience. Story 31. You are unwise to open up to a woman. They can and will use anything you tell them against you later. Never trust a woman with personal information. Story 32. Women are considered more empathetic because they were raised differently, coddled, and encouraged to talk about feelings and emotions. When they do, they typically receive love and attention from a supportive partner or family. However, society has not considered what would happen if men started to communicate more about their feelings. I would say at least 60% of all women either take it as a competition or eventually use it as a weapon because, in their view, their feelings should be more important simply because they are women. They would rather men bottle up their feelings than require the same support that women receive from their partners or family. There is little incentive for women to be a shoulder for men to cry on. Often, when men do share their feelings, the woman loses respect for him as a man. She may never admit it, but her actions will show it. She may not want to be intimate as much, and subconsciously may no longer see him as protector or provider. She may lose trust that he can protect her if he shows feelings that make her uncomfortable. Women are encouraged to be open with their feelings at every stage of their growth, expressing their truth. Men, however, are encouraged not to share their feelings with women, mainly because there is a real possibility that the woman will use it against them or subconsciously lose respect for them as men. It is unfortunate, but this is a common theme for a reason. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.